Oh.
For the phone.
Yeah, if I get tired of wearing it.
That's good. Are you recording or live streaming?
I haven't decided just
Okay.
yet.
All right. Cool.
Stephanie is the name of the ringleader, right?
What's that?
Stephanie is the name of the ringleader of reStart. She's the
Stephanie
CEO.
Boyer with reStart.
Would this be their first location, or have they done this in other cities?
I think you'll hear some good information on that tonight.
Okay.
So,
Surprised you don't know.
what's that?
I'm surprised you don't know. I would think they would have told people that.
I think I just don't want to make sure that I don't get crosswise with anything else.
Sure. Is she here yet, Stephanie? Where is she?
Far out there. I know. They still haven't put anything on yet.
Hello. Here's a packet of all the stuff.
All the stuff. I will take all the stuff.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your.
I'll take a couple to look at too, if you don't mind.
Perfect. Yes, you can grab which ones you'd like. I'm behind on my packet making.
Do you remember Terry?
And is Stephanie here? Stephanie Boyd?
Yes.
Oh, hey, howdy.
I believe she's right around the corner over there in the blue dress. Nice to meet you.
Stephanie, nice to meet you. I'm Billy Crone.
Nice to meet you.
Is your email address sboyer@restartinc.org?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
So I emailed you on the 8th of August to get
did? Okay.
to get a copy of the agreement that you had required folks to sign to attend.
Oh, okay.
Did you get this by chance?
I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well-
I can check maybe it went to my junk mail for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm curious about that, there's a shelter in Lawrence that took some heat recently for
Okay.
restricting the human rights, the constitutional rights of the
Okay.
people at their shelter.
Okay.
And they wouldn't want to disclose that agreement to the public, even though the public's funding it in Lawrence
Right.
as you want it to be funded here.
Uh-huh.
So I really want to see that to make an informed decision on whether I can support that.
Okay.
Would you be able to do you want me to forward that to you or forward it
Yeah,
again?
so we don't I guess I would say I don't know that there's an agreement per se, but we have a handbook that essentially they sign off on that they
they've
sort of
received it.
agree and receive,
Okay.
agree to all the things in the handbook and that they've received it.
Okay. Do you have a PDF
so-
of that by chance?
We do. Uh-huh.
Could you share that with me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just replied again to that, so you
Okay.
should have that fresh.
Okay.
Well, cool. Thank you for coming here and talking to folks. I'm not going
Yeah,
to keep you too long. I
of
know they're about to
course.
get started.
Yeah.
But
He said he had a big moment. Final job next
Now, I know that state employees, you're the county government, right? So state, city, and county have to swear to uphold the Constitution as part of your job, right? There's an oath form you all have to do. Is that correct?
I can't recall. I remember there was one, and I just worked for the state. I remember doing one there. I can't recall about the county. I'm sorry. I just don't remember.
Oh.
I think it might be. Yeah.
Huh.
So,
I was wondering how far that requirement. It's in the Constitution, actually. The
Yeah.
Kansas Constitution that all employees thereof must swear. I don't know that the Constitution says it has to be in writing or it can be verbal, you know. But,
I don't recall what I did when I started, but I anticipate there was probably something like that.
Yeah, I think it actually was forgotten about for a number of years. There was a hubbub like 3 or 4 years ago that somebody pointed out that, hey, this thing is in there, and we should all start following it. And I think it got like cracked down on like 2 or 3 years ago. So if you were hired before that, then I would assume that they called you in to sign out a form if that became a
I
requirement.
think
But
I would assume so too. I like to say,
I'm
I
curious.
probably should remember what I swore an oath to, but
Yeah. I go to city council.
have you read the Kansas Constitution?
I have from beginning
It
to
is.
end.
It is. I remember looking it up when I did it at the state.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, if I'm swearing to this,
Yeah.
I ought to read it.
Yeah, I applied to
But
city
it's,
council once, and before I went there to be, it was an appointment to fill a vacancy.
Uh-huh.
I took the time to read every letter of the U.S. and state constitutions, and it's not a small task.
The U.S. Constitution is pretty light.
Yeah.
But the Kansas Constitution is a large
reading.
document.
The current version of it is not even available online from the state right now.
Really?
In a standard PDF form.
Yeah, I might
They
believe
have-
it. I know it's that large. It's
They have quarter page where you would like print it out and fold it, and they have like half page things. But if you just want a full page one that you could search easily, that's not a thing right now online.
Wow.
Supposedly, after the amendments last year, it got revised, and the secretary has not provided one to the Kansas Library yet. There's like an official state library, and that's where you can download the quarter page ones, but they do not have a copy of the real one. But my curiosity is, how far does that extend? If the government uses tax money to fund a private organization, do they also have to swear the same oath? Which I would hope. But I will ask tonight.
Home is where you go. Get a hotel room, $50,000 house, $5 million house, it doesn't matter. If you're happy there and you're surrounded by your loved ones, that's home. Home is my cat food. Home is where I'm safe at. It's a special feeling when you have a home of your own.
Home is my family, my mom, my sister, my wife, my aunts, cousins, just happiness.
Being able to have your own kitchen and not have to worry about if it's raining or if it's sunny outside. Home is just my space.
Home is where you feel loved and accepted, my support in my life.
Got groceries, I'm in good health, I got a couple of friends, I'm very well off now, I'm happy.
Home is where you feel safe and make memories and laugh. Just live your life to the fullest.
Home is much more than just a place to dwell. It's a place to pray, to sleep, to eat. It's everything.
I've experienced multiple years of homelessness. Every time I walk into my apartment, I am so grateful.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Jody Hanson. I am the Director of Public Affairs and Communication for Johnson County, and we are so pleased to have everybody here today. Perfect timing. We've got Chairman Mike Kelly, who's going to get us started, set the tone for tonight, and welcome all of you, and then I will be back just after that.
Thank you very much, Jody, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you for taking an opportunity on a night where you can do a lot of different things and being willing to learn a little bit more about what we feel can be a really important community asset. But before we begin, I want to thank the Monticello Library and its staff, as well as our ASL interpreters, as well as the staff of Johnson County and reStart for taking a little bit of time in putting this together. What I wanted to talk with you about to begin tonight is a little bit more about why we are here and where kind of the concept for this project came from. When we first met as a board in February of 2023 to establish goals for the next few years of the Johnson County Commission, one of those goals we established was a focus on housing, particularly those areas of housing within our community that were challenged along this housing continuum. It identifies areas that there are needs for certain populations, from cost-burdened homeowners all the way to those who are experiencing homelessness or are chronically unhoused. We recognize that one of the big challenges we face in our community is a lack of affordable housing. Now, there are many strategies that the county has undertaken in these last 2 years to try to address some of the root causes as well as the symptoms of a lack of affordable housing in our community. One of those is a landlord incentive pilot program that is working with owners of multifamily housing and other properties to be able to accept vouchers for their units that are unoccupied. Additionally, we set up a pool of money to be a reserve should there be any damage to a unit by any one of the tenants that may utilize voucher. Luckily, there's been 0 claims on that pool of funding. We also started an eviction mediation pilot program. knowing that the impact of an eviction on somebody's record could be a real barrier in seeking permanent, stable housing. We helped provide mediators at the courthouse when there's an eviction case pending that would allow a tenant and a landlord to come to a mediated resolution of the dispute, therefore keeping an eviction off of somebody's record. So far, that eviction mediation pilot program is at a 94% success rate. Additionally, the county's invested in housing for low-income renters and workforce housing in Gardner, as well as in Shawnee, utilized a partnership with a developer and light tax credits to put 144 apartments that are now leased by families who are cost burdened in this apartment complex. Additionally, we are utilizing partnerships with other nonprofits such as Habitat for Humanity to put more single-family housing at an affordable price point on the market. The largest investment, or at least contingent investment to date that we have made, however, has been on the end of the housing continuum, and that's to address homelessness. The county is uniquely positioned to lead in this process because it is a convener of cities. Part of that investment is what we're here to talk about tonight, and that's the Homeless Services Center. One of the things that the county is looking to partner with reStart, the cities, the city of Lenexa, et cetera, is to provide wraparound services. The county provides a number of important services that help folks who may be housing challenged to find permanent, stable housing, employment, et cetera. So some of the services that the county would be providing would be services from its Certified Community Mental Health Center, as well as its Department of Health and Environment, as well as partnership with the housing team we already have at the county. You'll also hear from a couple of other partners tonight in workforce partnership, Johnson County Community College, et cetera. We believe that addressing homelessness is a community-wide problem, so we wanted to bring a community-wide solution to the forefront and collaborate with our cities to make this a success. As many of you know, we've been going to various city council meetings over the last few weeks, talking to a dozen of the cities who will have us to provide a presentation similar to what you're hearing tonight, as well as make a request or a suggested funding of the Homeless Services Center's ongoing operational costs. Many of those cities have been very supportive. But let's talk a little bit more about those operating costs. You've probably heard about the need for partnership up front, and what the county has considered at this point is about a little over $62,000 in ongoing operational support, in addition to the support that be provided from those wraparound services that I just mentioned. This approach provides a first dollar in and allows reStart the opportunity to, through its 40 years of experience in the field, being the entity that was unanimously recommended through our RFP process earlier in the year, to leverage those first dollars in and hopefully bring in more dollars through private and philanthropic funds, therefore providing long-term fiscal sustainability for the project. One of the reasons we didn't want to just fund these ongoing operational costs from the county is to provide a little bit more stability, knowing that the policy directions of certain governmental entities can change over time. We wanted to provide multiple partners. That way, if the priorities did change, there would still be other entities that had provided support and funding through their policy-making boards. We are really appreciative that 11 cities have already committed to providing this ongoing operational funding, and there are more cities that are considering this. Some of those who may have a higher dollar figure want to go through their traditional processes and have an agreement in place, and we totally understand that. I can tell you the presentations and the conversations that we had were very good. Some of the questions were pointed, and that was completely appropriate. But I think that the questions, the direction that we heard from the boards were very positive for the most part. And so I appreciate all the cities taking the time, like you all, to learn a little bit more, to get over the misnomers that you may have heard, and to actually get good information about what this facility is, who it will serve, and how it will address a growing need in Johnson County. You'll hear tonight that our point-in-time count for homelessness is 250 individuals. That's more than 235 the year before, which is more than 217 the year before that. It's a growing problem. Luckily, with cooperation and with a dedicated community focus, this is a manageable problem. And we can set ourselves up best to not only provide great service and do the right thing on behalf of some of the most vulnerable in our community, but as you'll hear, it's the smart fiscal decision as well. There's been a lot of study around this issue, and the path to establishing the Homeless Services Center has been a long and careful one, with a lot of collaboration and input from stakeholders, and from residents like yourselves. But we feel like we're at a unique opportunity right now, with the opportunity to utilize one-time federal funds that would not have otherwise been available, to be able to meet this community, to find a facility, to be able to rehabilitate that facility to meet the unique need in our community, helps us fill a real gap, a 24/7, 365-day shelter that otherwise does not exist in our community. And up until this point, despite the best efforts and the good intentions of cities, the county, and nonprofits, has been exorbitantly and probably preventatively expensive, and therefore has not yet come to fruition. But now we have this really unique opportunity. And if we don't act now, we risk this solution not being on the table to be able to help us address that bigger continuum of housing in our community, and we'll be left with a more daunting challenge that we'll all still collectively work to address in the years to come. But I appreciate folks stepping up to meet the moment, and appreciate all of you willing to learn a little bit more as we attempt to take this step forward for our community. With that, I want to thank you all for being here this evening. We're going to be able to take questions. Jody Hansen is going to explain a little bit more about the process tonight. And again, thank you very much for your time and your consideration. Jody?
Thank you so much, Chairman, for really catching us all up on kind of the why we're focused on this and how we got to where we are today. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time real quick just kind of giving you the landscape of how tonight's going to work. We're going to have a presentation, and in just a minute I will introduce our speakers for tonight. You should all have note cards on your chair, and so what I would ask is, as you're listening, or even now, if you have a question, write it on the note card and hold it up, and a staff member will get it from you. And then as we get closer to the Q&A section, we will go ahead and choose some of those questions as time allows. Questions that get asked several times probably will take some priority, common themes, things like that. If we don't get to your question within this formal structured Q&A, once we're done with that, there'll be an informal Q&A. So people that spoke tonight and others who are here and sort of experts in their area will be out in the library, and feel free to go up and ask them a question. In addition, all the questions that we get on the note cards, we're going to look at them and keep adding to our FAQ that we've got on our website. And so I've got the URL up there for the website. It's also printed on your agenda. That's really the place where we are putting all of the information, updated FAQs, videos, a lot of good information there that we hope you'll take some time to look at. And also quickly, I wanted to just mention that tonight is not the beginning of our engagement. The website is a tool. We've been doing social media, so hopefully you've seen some media stories about this. We know this is an important topic, which is why last night and this evening we're doing these county-wide meetings so more people can get access to this information. Since the proposed location is in Lenexa, before this we've done some targeted community engagement there. So we've been meeting with residents and sharing information with residents that live close to the proposed site, as well as businesses in the area. That was kind of our starting place, people that were closer to it, doing some engagement there. So you can see some of the meetings that we've held leading up until now. We've worked with the Lenexa Chamber and the Overland Chamber, have been very helpful getting information out to those nearby neighbors. And so that's been a kind of an ongoing priority. Now I'd like to introduce the people who are going to be speaking tonight and then turn it over to them. We have Christy Boffman, who is the Executive Director for United Community Services of Johnson County. They're the lead agency for the continuum of care, and they're the ones that do the point in time count that Chairman Kelly referenced, so she's going to tell you a lot more about that. Liz Worth is here from the Johnson County Mental Health Center. That organization is doing a lot already to serve this population, and so you're going to hear more details on what's already going on and how that could integrate with this site if approved. And then Stephanie Boyer is the CEO of reStart Inc., and she, as you probably know, her organization was unanimously selected in an RFP evaluation process to be the owner and the operator of the center, so she's going to have a lot of information about how it's going to run. So with that, I will turn it over to Christy.
Thanks. You guys, thanks for being here. As Jody said, I'm Christy Boffman. I'm Executive Director for United Community Services of Johnson County. We are a long-time planning partner with the county around health and human services issues, and especially around housing issues. And I do really want to thank everybody for showing up here. I am a huge proponent of civic advocacy. I like to see people show up. I think you've probably all heard that half of life is showing up, and I think the more we show up together and talk to each other, the better off we are. So thank you again for taking the time to come out tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about what homelessness looks like here in Johnson County, and also to kind of give you an idea about how we currently respond to homelessness in Johnson County. I'm going to start by kind of introducing you to the continuum of care on homelessness. I hope you all got a chance to grab handouts outside, because you'll see a handout on the continuum of care on homelessness and a handout on the coordinated entry system, which I'm going to also talk about. But the coordinated entry, the COC, the continuum of care on homelessness, is a lot of different things. It is a large coalition of folks who work to address homelessness and housing issues in our county. So we're talking about social service agencies, government offices, school districts, faith communities. It is a large group of folks who come together to try to address issues related to housing and homelessness. This is also a geographic area, so our COC covers Johnson County. There are 5 COCs across the state of Kansas. So you see that there's one in Sedgwick County, Shawnee County, ours here in Johnson County. We have a bi-state COC that covers Wyandotte County and Jackson County in Missouri. And then we have this massive COC that covers the rest of the 101 counties across the state, called the Balance of State. And this is divided into 9 different service areas. But we all work within our COCs together with the agencies that serve folks who are experiencing homelessness. It's also part of a funding program. So we receive our funding through HUD, through our COC. So COC dollars are distributed throughout our COC according to the priorities that the members set. So a COC is a lot of different things, but when you think about it, it is really that group of folks who are coming together to work to address issues related to housing and homelessness. So one of the many things that the COC does is to implement the coordinated entry process. And so if you think about folks who are experiencing homelessness or folks who are precarious in their housing, you might ask yourself, well, how do we even know where they are, or how do we connect with them? How do they receive services? This is the process for how that happens. If you think about homelessness also, and if you look at your fact sheets that presents a little bit of data, you can see that homelessness is really complex. And if you look at the stories also that reStart has put around the room, you can also see that how people get to that place is really complex. So we don't want to provide one solution for everybody, right? The coordinated entry process is a way for us to assess people's needs and to be able to assign the resource that makes the most sense and gives them the best shot at being successful. So it kind of, as we look at the resources that are available, we kind of go from folks who have a less need to folks who have more need. So you might think about somebody, maybe a single mom, she's raising a couple of teenagers, taking care of her elderly parents. She gets diagnosed with an illness, right? So now she's having trouble making rent, she's struggling to make it to work. We're not going to put that family in shelter, right? That's not the best response for them. The best response for them is to keep them housed. So can we provide them with rental assistance? Can we provide them with food stamps? Can we help with home health care? What can we do to keep them stably housed so they don't fall into homelessness? But then you might also have somebody at the higher end of need who has a severe mental or physical disability. And that's somebody who may need long-term rent support, long-term case management, really for the rest of their lives. So that is a much higher need that we try to meet through the coordinated entry process. And you can kind of see that little purple square in the middle. That kind of represents our Homeless Services Center. And Homeless Services Center really is that bridge from homelessness to stable housing. So when we think about, again, how do we assess people's needs? Is the shelter going to be the fit for everybody? It is not. It's going to be the fit for the people that are going to be most successful in that environment. So now it's my favorite part. I hope you guys saw kind of the data that we had outside, and I hope that you got the point in time count handout. Data is my love language. I love to talk about data, but I've restricted myself to 2 slides tonight. We in Johnson County know a lot about people who are experiencing homelessness. And we know that through a variety of ways, right? So we know it through our coordinated entry system. We get a lot of data from folks who come through that system. We get data from our school districts about kids who are experiencing homelessness as well. And then we also get information through what we call our point in time count. So every year, HUD mandates that all the COCs across the country, one night in January, they count all the people in their community who are experiencing homelessness. So the data that you see here came from January 24th, 2024. So on that night, we went out and we attempted to count everybody who was experiencing homelessness. So we talked to folks who were in shelter. We talked to folks who were unsheltered, so people who were staying in their cars or outside or someplace else not meant for human habitation, and folks who are in transitional housing. What we don't count are folks who are doubled up. So if you think about when we do the point in time count, it's like literally the worst time to do a count like that. Because when it's super cold like that, that's where you kind of see people who are maybe a little bit more willing to let you couch surf for a few nights, or maybe you're going to scrape up every resource you have and you're going to put yourself up in a hotel for a couple of nights so that you can get past that really cold snap. So it is difficult to get an accurate count, particularly in January. But this is kind of a snapshot of what we know about folks who are experiencing homelessness here in Johnson County. What I want to point out is that almost 50% of the folks that we talked to on January 24th, this was the first time they had ever experienced homelessness. Almost half of them had never had this experience before. It was completely new. We can also see something that I think is always amazing to me is that over 40% of folks are currently working. They're employed. And this is something that is always astounding to me because I try to imagine what it would be like to make it to work every day if you don't have a place to shower, you don't have a place to keep your clothes clean, you probably didn't sleep very well because maybe you're worried about your security, yet these folks are showing up at their jobs. They're still working, almost half of them. Over half have some kind of income, maybe through disability income. But we also know that for the folks who do have income who are experiencing homelessness, their average monthly household income is just over $1,800. And if you look at your fact sheet that we have, you can see that the median price for a one-bedroom apartment here in Johnson County is a little over $1,100. And that's a 26% increase over 5 years. So your $1,800 is not going very far in terms of keeping you stably housed. The other thing I want to point out on this slide is that 85% of the folks that we talked to that night were adult-only households, so people who were by themselves with no kiddos. That is almost a 700% increase over the last 10 years, seeing people who are on their own with no kiddos, no spouse, they're just adults by themselves. That was 85% of our count. The other thing I want to kind of talk to you about is the trend, and I think that Chairman Kelly alluded to this. The numbers of homeless folks in our county are going up, and they're going to continue to go up. I think that it's not a surprise. I'm sure everybody in this room understands how expensive housing is here in Johnson County, how rent and housing prices have increased, and salaries are not increasing at that pace, right? So we anticipate this number to grow. And of the 250 folks who were experiencing homelessness on January 24th, 58 people were unsheltered. So they were outside, living in their car or someplace else. On January 24th, they're outside. And this is more than 150% increase in folks who are unsheltered in our community. So we present this data just because we want to kind of give you, to center you a little bit about what we're looking at. And you know, when we talk about the number of folks experiencing homelessness in Johnson County, 250 people is not a lot. This is something that we as Johnson County are really in a position to manage, right? And to manage in a pretty exceptional way because we're an exceptional community. So I'm going to hand off to Liz. I lay out the problems for everybody and I let other folks talk about the solutions. And you'll hear a little bit from her and then from Stephanie about kind of what's currently going on and what the plan is that we're hoping to see for the Homeless Services Center. I'll be here afterwards if you want to talk to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you, especially about data. And so thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Christy. Like Jody said, my name is Liz Worth. I'm the Deputy Director of the Mental Health Center. And Chairman Kelly mentioned that we have been working on this project for quite some time. And we have, and we've also been working on street outreach for a really long time. So what kind of hit me about Christy's slide was I've been a part of this point in time count all of those years. And to watch those numbers go up with the resources that we have with street outreach in general are pretty impressive in what we've been able to do. And through this project, I'm really looking forward about what we can do with this. So we offer community-based mental health treatment for adults and kids at the Mental Health Center. The community piece is really important. This is where people live. This is where their social connections, their community connections are. And so being a part of the community is important to people and what keeps them going in their everyday life. Naturally, when you're homeless, you don't have that community. And so there is some of that struggle that we help people with to find their community. We have, in all of those years that we were doing the point in time count, one full-time street outreach worker. So if you look at those numbers, even when they were low, there was 130 people that one person was working to outreach. We had some other support in the community to help, but really had that one dedicated worker. So naturally, with these numbers going up, we have been advocating for more help with that. And so the state recognized our point in time data going up in Johnson County and gratefully helped us expand our homeless outreach team just this year. So we received 6 new positions for that. Sorry, I can't keep track sometimes. Which is 3 new case managers, a clinician who's here tonight, a team leader, and a peer support worker. And so those folks are really going to help grow that team to connect people to resources. Street outreach is about connecting to resources. Our hope is obviously with this project that we connect to one more resource. As Christy mentioned, in our continuum of care, we're trying to put the person in the right place, and we haven't always had that place to put someone. So this is exciting for us. We plan to provide our mental health outreach and case management and crisis services on site of the Homeless Service Center and also in the community. That is important to us, again, of working in the community, really meeting people where they're at, and also providing that support with this project. So an important piece of this is that our services follow the person no matter where they are. So we are gonna have people that maybe make it to the center, that maybe don't, but we will always provide that service. So we identify someone, we try to engage them. Let's say maybe they go into the center, and then after the center, we continue to work with them. We help them build their community, continue their employment, whatever that looks like for them and their journey. But that's an important piece of that we will always hang on to these people until they're ready and feel like they have the support they need to go out on their own. Some of the services that we provide currently and will provide throughout this project are assessments. And those can be really general assessments, or they can be specific, whether that's mental health, substance use, or just assessments for life assessments. We provide case management. That's sort of what we know best at the Mental Health Center is case management. And then connection to resources and crisis intervention. So we like to respond and prevent crisis as much as we can by helping these folks receive the care that they need and the tools that they need to live those successful lives. But as we all have crisis in lives, so do they, and so we'll work with them throughout that crisis. Some of the other resources that we have are our co-responders and mobile crisis response teams. So our co-responders we have in almost every municipality in Johnson County. And so a co-responder, some programs are larger than others. Obviously in the larger cities we have more. But the co-responders are connected to law enforcement, and they will respond to any call that could be a behavioral health call. So that way, again, we're putting the person in the right place. It could be that they're having a behavioral health crisis and prior to co-responding would go to jail. That's not where we want people, and that's not where they need to be. That's not giving them what they need. So what the co-responders do is help the police determine what is the best place for this person. It could be jail. It could be just an assessment and follow up with the mental health center the next day, and it could be hospitalization. So there's a lot of things a lot of choices that they have in that. So again, it's to provide the right intervention at the right time, to help that person successfully remain in the community. We also, in our street outreach team, again, the goal is really to outreach folks, it's to build relationships in their community, it's to connect them to the services that they need. Some people, as Chrissy mentioned, 40% or 42% of people are already working. So we don't necessarily need to find people jobs. We might need to help them with other things. And so, again, every intervention that we have is tailored to that client's specific need of what they have in the community. So all in all, I just really want to emphasize that this work has been going on for a long time. And so we have an opportunity here to really connect people to another right service for them. And we are excited for the partnership. So with that, I can turn it over to Stephanie for reStart.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. It's great to see a room full of folks, and we appreciate you coming out to get more information and to ask questions. So first I'll start with a little bit about who reStart is. Some of you may have heard of us, some of you may have never heard of us. So we have been around for over 40 years doing this work across the metro. And we do this work through in Jackson County, Missouri, and in Wyandotte and Johnson County, Kansas. So as we began, long ago, we were in the basement of a church as an overnight shelter only for single men because at that time, that was really the face of homelessness. And over time, unfortunately, the face of who's experiencing homelessness has really changed. And so reStart has really been an organization that has responded to those ever-changing community needs. And so today offers over 17 different programs to all populations, including youth, veterans, single adults, and families. So we really do this work through that whole continuum, starting with that prevention, trying to keep folks housed who might be at risk of losing their housing, to street outreach, to emergency shelter, to transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing. So everything we run is a program. It has case management, and it has wraparound support services of behavioral health, and employment services, all the things that folks might need to be able to help them to find a pathway out of homelessness. So our goal when we're working with folks is to help them find that pathway. And when you do the work in that way and you provide all of those wraparound support services, you're far more successful at helping folks move back into a long-term stable housing situation. So about 90% of people that we work with are able to exit homelessness and back into that because of the support that they receive in that way. So you'll see some lovely posters of our friends around the room with us. This last year, we worked with an artist named Randy Bacon to create an exhibit called The Road Home. And it's been at the Kansas City Museum for about the last 9 months or so. And so it's been really great to have folks come in there and learn more about them. We really wanted to find a way to be able to capture and share stories of people who have been through our programs, and so that folks can really understand how they got there and that they got out, right? They really worked to address the things that they needed to overcome. And if you take time to read some of those stories, I think most of you picked up a booklet outside. There's QR codes you can scan in there, and you can hear like a couple-minute video of each person sharing their own story and journey with you. So I really encourage you to take a little time to learn about folks in there. We have some young adults, we have seniors, we have veterans. There's a little bit of everything and a lot of different life circumstances that sort of happened that really led folks to experiencing homelessness. All right, let's get into the meat of it. What you've all been waiting for is to really learn more about the Homeless Services Center. What is it? What's it gonna be like? We're very excited about this project. You've heard the data. This is a solvable problem in Johnson County, which is very exciting. Overland Park's been hosting the Kansas Housing Conference the last 3 days, and there was a speaker from Seattle there who was sharing that years ago Seattle was looking at LA saying, well, we don't have as big a problem as they do, and they didn't do anything, and now here they are years later with as big a problem as LA, right? So it was a really good reminder of we do have to kind of catch this while we can before we have a larger crisis on our hands. So the Homeless Services Center will have basically 2 key features. The first is what we're calling the lodge, which will be 50 units of non-congregate shelter. And so that means that folks will not share a room with each other. Everyone will have their own room and their own bathroom. So this is a hotel. They will essentially have a hotel room with their own bathroom during their stay there. So non-congregate shelter is a newer sheltering strategy that HUD's really been supporting, and we really like it too. Being able to allow folks to have a space to come into where they can really focus on themselves and not have to worry about sort of what my roommate might be going through or experiencing. It really helps folks to be able to stay focused on what they need to stay focused on. And so the center will focus primarily on single adults. And that's because as we looked at that data, right, Christy shared with you, 85% of those households were single adults, right? So the data for a number of years has really supported that the gap of what there's not a solution for in Johnson County is for single adults. And so we have continued to see that number growing. And the 50 is not by happenstance either, right? There were 58 people living unsheltered. There's been a lot of data and a lot of folks that have researched to kind of figure out what is our real need here? What kind of solution do we need? So that's how we sort of got to where we are in terms of how it would operate and what the numbers look like. That program is an interim housing program, right? It is meant to be a 30 to 90 day stay for folks. They'll have a case manager, they'll have access to all kinds of wraparound support services, and it's really a chance for them to get on their feet, right? We saw in the data as well, a lot of folks experiencing homelessness in Johnson County are employed, which you don't always see in every community either. But maybe they need a better job, right? But it's hard to do if you're holding down a job while you're experiencing homelessness, that's pretty great. But it's certainly hard to look for another one, right, on top of that, or maybe a better job. So this will really allow folks, right, that time to be able to do that. The second component is the residences, which will be 25 units of transitional housing. That will take 25 of those units and add kitchenettes to them, basically create a small studio apartment. And folks will be able to stay in that program for up to 24 months. So it's there to provide a little bit more stability for folks. It's not uncommon that a lot of folks will be able to get housed in that 30 to 90 day time. But some folks are going to work really hard in that time frame, and it's just not going to happen, right, for a variety of reasons. And a lot of times we see that be with folks who are on disability or who are living on Social Security and who have a fixed income. And so they really need to be in an income-based housing solution to provide that long-term housing stability, because we certainly don't want them to get back into a housing situation that they're paying too high of rent, right? HUD says that no one should pay more than 30% of their income for rent and utilities, right? So regardless of your income, so otherwise you're considered cost burdened, and then that puts people at risk of homelessness or of homelessness reoccurring. So we often see this with those populations. A lot of times can be seniors who really need to be in a senior living facility that is based on their income, and oftentimes those wait lists can be a year too long, right? So we need to have this kind of next step for folks to be able to have them there so we can get them connected to that long-term permanent housing solution. So a couple of things to share with you about the site. I think by now probably everyone knows where it's located, but in case you missed it, it's at I-35 and 95th Street where the La Quinta Hotel is. So this is the site. The larger gray building there, as you see, is the existing building. And the building down here in the corner was the former Denny's that you may remember. There will be some site upgrades happening outside. So some new landscaping, new lighting, the parking lot will get some resurfacing, lots of sidewalk repair, things like that will be happening. There will be access control to the site as well. So there's two entrances to the site. And so there will be a gate that will be access controlled by staff inside the building. So that, again, we really want to control who's coming on the property. It's a fairly large parking lot there. And so we want to be able to control who's coming onto the property, who's hanging out on the property, those kinds of things. On the first and second floor will be the lodge or the non-congregate rooms for folks. So you'll enter in on the first floor in the lobby just like you do the hotel now, so that won't change. There is access control to the building as well, so folks have to be let in. So again, we're controlling who's coming on site. And so we have rooms, we have intake rooms, dining areas, office and programming space, kind of scattered in there. So the pinkish color are the rooms that folks will be staying in, and kind of the purple is more office or programming space. Whoops, wrong way. And the next, on the third floor, there's 3 floors to the building. On the third floor will be the 25 units of the transitional housing that I mentioned. Additionally, there will be some programming space and case management office. So those folks will still have access to case management and all those wraparound support services as well. Okay, so how will folks come into the center? This is a big one. It is a referral-based program. So this is not a line up at the door. This is not a walk-up type shelter. So anything you've ever seen on TV or a movie or the news about that showed you an image of a homeless shelter, typically it's like a lot of people lining up. This is not that. It will not look like that. It will be referral-based only. So folks are going to come into this program through the coordinated entry system that Christy talked about, right? So this is a really important resource, as you've kind of heard several folks talk about tonight. And so we don't want it to exist outside of that. It needs to exist inside of that so that we can assess everyone in the same way and we can get them connected to the right resource and to the right response. So the Homeless Services Center will obviously be a new response, right? So it will fill a gap that has been unmet, which is why we have 58 folks living outside, right? So people will continue to go to the 4 hubs. Street outreach can also conduct assessments for folks to be able to get them into that coordinated entry system. So if they're not able to be connected to a program or service right away, like you saw in Christy's sort of diagram of what's available when folks get assessed, they go on what's called a by name list, and folks are ranked in order of vulnerability for that. And so they will, as we have openings, we'll reach out to the coordinated entry system and they'll refer folks over. We'll schedule intakes, and case managers will assist in getting folks to the site to complete their intake and get them settled into the program. So lots of really important things there. When we look at safety and security for the building, this is important. It's important to all of you. It's important to the folks who will be staying there, and it's important to neighbors and businesses and the entire community. So I've already kind of mentioned a few of the things that are, we've really taken into consideration. The gated access, the referral only type program, right, is important as well. We will have interior and exterior cameras that are monitored 24 hours a day by on-site staff. And I mentioned some exterior lighting upgrades. Additionally, we have trained staff, on site 24 hours a day. And we have some staff that will do hourly walkthroughs, both interior and exterior, to inside and outside the building. We do impose a curfew for folks of 10 o'clock. If folks are working, then they work with their case manager on their work schedule, because it's not uncommon that we might have folks that are working a second or third shift type job, which also makes having an opportunity to sleep at whatever time of day you need to is really important to be able to have for folks too. We do search bags and folks as they come in. We're looking to make sure that they're not bringing any kind of drugs or alcohol onto the site, weapons, anything like that. We'll be adding a fire suppression system to the building. It doesn't currently have one now, so we definitely want it to be safe in that capacity. We'll be adding a hot room. So if this came up last night, I sort of glazed over it and the people were like, what's a hot room? So this is a room that we utilize where when folks come in, all their belongings go into this room for a couple of hours. And it just sits in there at a couple 100 degrees, and it just kills any potential infestations of like head lice or bed bugs or anything like that. And so it's just a cautious practice that we do for everything that they come in, because they're extremely hard to treat and get rid of. So the best way is just everything goes in and we just, sort of universal precaution, right? So of course, safety plans come into play sometimes, and working with our mental health team and our staff. If folks are struggling with mental health or suicidal thoughts and things like that can often come up. So we're very experienced at helping folks through those kinds of things and creating safety plans. And then of course, lots of safety and security training for staff, right? So our staff are trained in a whole lot of ways. A lot of them have a social work background, but we do de-escalation training with everyone, so they really know how to sort of approach situations and how to sort of de-escalate things that might be going on. CPR, first aid, mental health first aid, trauma-informed care, all kinds of things that are really focused on around safety and security. So a few other things to just point out about sort of guest expectations, right? We do have expectations of folks. We really want them to be engaged with their case manager and actively working a plan, right? Our goal is to help folks get out of homelessness, and so we'll be working closely with them while sort of meeting people where they are. We know that can look different based on what you might be, some folks maybe already have a job, right, and just need some stability and some time to save some money, and they're going to be good to go pretty quick. And some folks might be really struggling with serious and persistent mental health issues, right? And so two totally different types of scenarios that are going to need two totally different types of interventions with their case manager. As I mentioned, right, we don't allow drugs or alcohol or weapons on site. We are low barrier in a sense that we understand folks might be struggling with those things, and so they might be under the influence when they come in the door, but we don't allow them to use or have things on the site. And what we often see with that, right, is once folks don't have to be outdoors anymore, we often see the substance use kind of the sides of things just decrease all on its own, because it really becomes a coping mechanism for a lot of folks when they're out there. As well as when you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep tonight, how you're going to eat, how you're going to stay safe. You're really able then, folks really are able to shift their thinking into what do I need to do next, right? And that's hard to do if you're living in a survival mindset, right? Think about like a veteran at war, right? They have to be in a survival mindset of like, what am I here to do? And that's really what folks go through when they're outdoors. We are going to allow pets, so we're excited about that because that's not always a possibility either sometimes for folks, and sometimes can be a barrier for folks to come into shelter because they're not going to leave their pet behind. It's often the last thing that they might be holding on to, right, from when they had to leave their last home. So that's really important. And those of you that have pets, they're like children, so it would be like leaving your child, right, behind. I don't think any of us are going to do that. So I've kind of talked a little bit about the staffing plan. We will have staff 24 hours a day. The operational hours, if you will, are going to be 8 to 6, which really what that means, I mean, this is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, right? So, but the bulk of sort of activity and the time that case managers are there and other supportive services are on site and there's programming and activities and things typically happen during business hours. So there's just a lot more movement throughout the program and the building and things like that during that time. So we have more staff there then, right? And additionally, some supportive staff from other organizations will be in and out, typically during those times as well. And then of course in the evening we'll go down a little bit, and then overnight we'll have a minimum of 4 people in the building overnight. And really folks are just like us when they have a place to stay. They're kind of boring people too. After they eat dinner, they sort of, retire for some TV and relax. And so we typically do see most folks are sleeping at night. And so it's pretty quiet usually. We'll obviously have, a director, a manager, case managers, lots of sort of guest support staff, and counselor techs. Of course, housekeeping, maintenance, and additional support service providers. We will utilize lots of volunteers too, for a variety of things. So for anyone that is interested in that. United Community Services is setting up an advisory and oversight board, which will be made up of a group of key stakeholders from across the community, which will really stay very involved with us, which we're very excited about. I've had this on another project in the past, and it was one of my favorite things, and they all became my favorite people. So So we look forward to this, and I know Christy's still trying to recruit a few community people, so if anyone is interested, you can talk to her more about that. She'll like to talk about that and data. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about myth versus reality, right? We know that when projects like this come, sometimes misinformation gets out about what it is and how it's going to operate and what it's going to look like. So hopefully we've cleared a lot of that up for you tonight, but we look forward to your questions as well. So I think we've kind of really covered, you know, what it is, right? Sort of all the things we've shared. This is not an immigration center. We've heard a lot of things and seen a lot of things that are saying it's going to be an immigration center. It is certainly not that, right? It is going to work within that coordinated entry system. And another reason why it is functioning within that coordinated entry system, because that is the best way for us to also ensure that the majority of folks in that system are coming from Johnson County, right? We do not see people traveling around from other communities to access services because they really don't have the means to be able to get there. And those assessors, if they were to come across someone that was from another community, are going to work hard to get them connected back to that community because they likely have some sort of support system there. And so the best thing to do would be to get them connected back there, right? So again, this is not a place for crime or drugs or alcohol. Folks really tend to respect those rules. They really take pride in where they're living and treat it as their home. And so we also do not see a lot of law enforcement response needed. We run a program very similar to this in Missouri, and we have very few interactions or calls from law enforcement, right? All right, to touch on a few of our the supportive services and partnerships, which we're very excited tonight. You'll hear for a few minutes from some of them too, which we're very excited about. I kind of already talked about sort of all that case management and things, but as well as you heard from Johnson County Mental Health, but additionally Johnson County Community College and Workforce Partnership and Health Partnership Clinic, very early on when this RFP first came out, signed up their hand, raised their hands and said, hey, we want to be a part of it. We've got some great services that we know folks can take advantage of. And so we're so appreciative, of that. And it's obviously going to really help folks to be able to really advance their life as well. Okay, so where are we now? Next steps. You heard that we've, sort of been doing a lot of different engagement sessions. This wraps up tonight. It's weird. I've been doing this for a long while now, and I'm like, and then later in August, and here we are at the last final date for our kind of community engagement. So again, thank you all for coming out. We have officially submitted our special use permit to the city of Lenexa for this project. And so we are set to go to the Planning Commission on Monday night, which is just around the corner. And to the City Council on September 17th. So we are awaiting a report from the City of Lenexa today. We're anxiously waiting. Hopefully it's in my email when we're done. So the staff have had some concerns and we've met with them a lot. And they have, shared publicly that they intend to recommend denial of the special use permit. Now, the Planning Commission and the Council can still vote yes to the project, and so we are hopeful that they will do that. And so we need folks to come out, and we need folks to email the Planning Commission and the City Council as well. If all goes well, and when we get that yes, we will close on the building at the end of October, and then we would begin those renovations that I kind of shared with you throughout the project. We would expect that our opening would be September or October of 2025. So there's a little bit of work to do there. All right, I think that is it for me. There's some contact information for the reStart team for Johnson County and for United Community Services. And I think Jody's going to come up and introduce our partners to speak, and then we'll get to some questions. So thank you guys again for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Stephanie. So the formal Q&A will start in just a few minutes. So this is kind of the last call. If you have a question, want to write it on your note card and raise it up, someone from our staff will grab it. While we're doing that and taking a look at those, I just wanted to introduce a few people that are here with us. Lisa Waldman is here from Johnson County Community College, so she's right here in the front row. She's happy to have her here. And then Keely Schneider is here. She's with Workforce Partnership, and I think she wants to talk a little bit about the services that they would provide in this facility.
Thank you, Jody. So good evening, everyone. I'm Keely Schneider. I'm the Executive Director for Workforce Partnership. And if you haven't heard of us, that's why I'm here to share a little bit about our services, as well as what we hope to be able to do within and outside of the Homeless Services Center. So Workforce Partnership, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we are your local workforce development board. We serve Johnson County as well as Wyandotte and Leavenworth counties, and we operate 3 comprehensive workforce centers, one in each of the 3 counties. Our Johnson County Center is located just a hop, skip, and a jump away from where this services center would be located. So we are just literally one exit down off the highway. And one of the things I wanted to share with you tonight is sort of the breadth of services that we provide for individuals who are interested in everything from basic services like just assistance with a resume, assistance with their job search. How do I apply online for someone who maybe hasn't applied for a job in a while? Interview skills, labor market information. Hey, what are the hot jobs out there? What are the wages for some of those really in-demand occupations and so on. So that's kind of basic level, and I will tell you that every single one of you can walk into one of our workforce centers and receive those kinds of services. Doesn't matter, you don't have to be eligible for anything, doesn't matter your income, doesn't matter if you have a job or don't have a job, we can serve you with a lot of those basic level services every day. What we really do very well, that is our expertise, if you will, is assisting individuals with barriers to employment. And so a barrier could obviously be something like they are unhoused. They do not have a stable home situation. But there are other barriers. Just simply being low income is a great barrier often to getting a job or a new job, a better job. You may have a disability. That's a barrier. You may be transitioning out of the military. Maybe this is the first time you've had a civilian job and you're trying to figure out how to translate what you did in the military into the civilian and private sector world. So there are a lot of things out there that could be barriers for young people, young adults, a young parenting teen, things of that nature. So we have this expertise in serving people with barriers, and when we reach out to them and they're eligible for a variety of programs that we have, that means that they are also eligible for a lot of very special help. So in addition to all of the basic services, we can provide them with an individual career navigator that works with them on their own individual employment plan. What does that look like for that person? It's kind of like case management, but specifically for figuring out your employment world. We can also help pay for tuition on their behalf at places like Johnson County Community College. We send a ton of people and spend a lot of money with the college, putting people through high demand certificate programs, short-term training, even to some degree assisting in that financial aid package to get them through a degree program. So there's a lot we can do to help people who cannot afford to get skilled, to get them skills or better skills. I know Stephanie talked about, some people come in employed, but maybe they don't have a very good job, a quality job, or perhaps a full-time job, and they need something better. So we're here to help with that. The other thing that we can provide are additional supportive services. So if you're in one of our intensive programs, you can also receive assistance like transportation assistance. That could look like a bus pass, it could look like a gas card. You can also get assistance with a little bit of childcare, which may be really important for some people. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about our wraparound services, all we do for people who are have higher needs and really do have barriers to employment. Our hope is that when the service center opens, and I said when, not if, when the center opens, our hope is that we will both be able to deliver services at the center with some of our career navigators going in, as well as figuring out ways to get them to our comprehensive center, because there's a lot of activity over there and we would love for them to be part of it. So thank you for your time. Just wanted to share that, and please come by and see us at our workforce.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you for being here tonight and showing your support. So thank you to those who have submitted questions. So we're going to take a few and we'll have our panel answer these. First, how is the project beneficial to the residents of Lenexa? We'd like to take that one.
Hi. Okay. Well, definitely, I think the folks in Lenexa are, well, all across the community, but in particular in Lenexa, there are a lot of folks experiencing homelessness in the community already. And as we met with law enforcement, we heard that over and over again. Many calls for service at the mall, for example. So libraries, right? So people tend to go to public spaces, right? To have a safe place to be, to get out of the weather, whatever that might be. And as we met with businesses close around the center, several of them shared with us that their business has been negatively impacted by folks experiencing homelessness today. And several have lost business because of that. And so they saw this as a solution, right? Because they also recognized that when they called for help for that, there wasn't anywhere for anyone to take them. And so they sort of see the same people over and over, right? Sort of happening again. So, and as we've met with neighbors in our community meetings, you know, we have shared with them we're here to be a partner. We understand concerns and we understand folks are cautious, not really understanding and knowing who's going to be there. Hopefully some of the data you heard tonight about, you know, who are these folks, and hopefully some of the stories that you'll, you know, share, listen to, or read that we've shared will kind of give you a better sense too of who we're talking about, right? And many folks, you know, we all know someone that has lost a job or has had a very serious health condition, you know, or has had something really tragic that sort of happened in their life. And you can probably think back that if they didn't have a certain support system, where might they have been? Or you yourself might have experienced those things as well, right? Many of us are really fortunate to have someone in our life that we can kind of go to, or that we could call up and say, hey, can I stay with you for a while till I get on my feet? Or, but a lot of folks don't have anyone, so.
Thank you. Are the presentation slides available online? They are. This whole PowerPoint is online. The easiest way to get to it is just go to jocogov.org. That's our main website, and right on the homepage towards the top, there's a link that goes right to information about the Homeless Services Center. And right away, you'll see kind of a blue box that had the dates for these meetings and a link to the slides is right there. This one is probably for Stephanie and maybe also for Liz. How will this center affect policing? Will there be an impact on the number of mental health calls police officers will make and in the broader community?
I'll start and then Stephanie can finish. So we anticipate that because of the wraparound and supportive services that we're offering throughout the project, that won't require or increase police response. It actually probably will decrease. So those folks are going to be getting what they need. Also during the day, as Stephanie mentioned, during those hours, the mental health staff will be on site. And so most likely what we'll be doing is working with those folks who maybe are anticipating a crisis, or maybe we sense one coming on. We'll be working with that person to identify the safety plan that Stephanie referenced, and then her staff overnight will continue that safety plan. So really with those wraparound services between reStart, our community partners, and the mental health center, I think those things should be very rare.
Yeah, so I totally agree with everything Jody said. We know from experience that when folks come in and have access to that, they're able to actually start to stabilize, right? A lot of folks on the street even are engaging in services, trying to stay on their meds, but that's really hard to do when you don't have a roof over your head. And so once folks do have that, we really see that they, are able to stabilize much more effectively and much more quickly, right? Which decreases the need for any kind of emergency intervention, whether from law enforcement or going to the hospital or things like that. Additionally, I would say across all of Johnson County, I would say that there will be a decrease in law enforcement contact with folks, right? If you remember back, there were 58 people living unsheltered, right? So the day the center opens, there's 50 beds available, right? So and then 25 additional transitional housing units. So the day it opens, it's really going to be able to address folks who are living unsheltered in our community, which is pretty amazing. Not many communities can say that they could do one intervention and sort of make that happen. So right now, those folks are scattered all across Johnson County, and many different cities and many different law enforcement agencies are interacting with them. And when we met with some of the law enforcement agencies, some of them are even interacting with the same people, right? Because they move about. So even in one day, the person might interact with 3 law enforcement agencies, right? So that's a lot of law enforcement contact and a lot of law enforcement resources that won't have to be being utilized once folks are in a safe place.
All right, I think we've got time for about one more until we move into our informal Q&A. When again, if you didn't get your question answered, all of these presenters will be out in the main area of the library, so feel free to ask them one-on-one. And again, we will update our FAQ with some of these. This would be for Christy. How do you get an accurate homelessness count? I think people are kind of interested in that process.
Sure, I could answer this one, or I think I could also call on Rita Carr to step up here if she wants to come up. Surprise! I will say this, that it is extremely difficult to get a completely accurate count of folks who are experiencing homelessness in Johnson County, but I'll let Rita kind of walk you through exactly what that process looks like.
Yeah, so for the data that is on the posters out there and on the handout that you got, that is a one-night count. And it is limited because it's a survey, it's voluntary, but we do the best we can to look anywhere and everywhere. We have volunteers that go out from 6 a.m. to like 9 p.m., all the different places that we have seen people before or that we've contacted. So we kind of look anywhere and everywhere and do the best count that we can. I can't say that it's 100% of everybody because, of course, you if you're staying outdoors, if you're staying in your car, you are trying to avoid detection. You're trying to stay under the radar. So it's the best count that we have, and we do it every year. But certainly, if you think, is that everybody? It's as good as we can do.
Nice job for a surprise appearance.
And I'm happy to answer questions also. The data stuff, that's my work.
Well, thanks again to everybody for being here tonight. Thanks for our presenters and our identified partners. And thanks to all of you for your interest. Have a great night.
I'm happy that we're helping people. That's good and it's important. I just wish it was done via consensual donation. Right? They accept donations on their own website. reStart. Have you donated to them?
Chairman, maybe.
Have you donated to them before?
I have not donated. How are you? Another organization.
They're helpful. Thank you. They're helpful. This is a QR code that will take you to the donation for reStart themselves. It's just their donation partner. I don't even know what the company's called, but
Well, and I just,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I looked at the amount they were asking from Marion residents, that's my city, and they were asking for 87 cents for every household. It doesn't seem like a lot. If just 10% of people wanted to donate and donated like $10, that would actually do better than what they're asking out of tax money. But I think the beauty of charity is that it's consensual. That people decide to give somebody a hand, you know? If I stole my neighbor's car and sold it to parts, all that money would do a lot of good for him, right? But it'd be wrong because I'd be taking it from my neighbor without consent. And
my philosophy
taxation is taking by force, right? If you don't want to pay your taxes that your city's going to give you reStart, they will take your house, right? If you don't pay your taxes, the sheriff will come. I have a problem with charity coming from force. I think people should give because they want to give.
It's not charity per se.
HSC is not charity?
Pardon me?
HSC isn't charity? The Homeless Services Center?
I mean,
that's not a dirty word. That's a good thing.
How is it not just doing the right thing to
help people in need?
Help people. Yeah.
Helping people.
So you don't think the police force is helping you?
No, I think they help everyone.
They're helping you.
They're paid for by taxes, and police should be paid for by taxes because they can use force against people to accomplish their mission. It would be wrong if like FedEx could break down your door to enforce their policies, right? So,
I'm a believer in all for good and all those things are services we count on. Make this a place to live. To get the stream out asking for money. Yes, everyone's about to give it. That doesn't solve the problem.
have you talked to homeless people before? Have you ever?
Yeah.
I have in Marion a couple times. The ones
When I first came to Kansas City, I did teach. I was a teacher. So I got here this summer. So I went down to and did interviews for homelessness and realized these people can't hold a job without some mental health assistance, without some treatment, without giving them a bag of food to me was when they need much more, which is why I've been transitioning people off the street or into a job or into a home and not need my tax dollars to help. It's a pleasure talking with you.
You're not a bad person.
I know.
You're not.
No,
I thank you for coming here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Would you like to support them?
I do.
I looked up a QR code where folks can donate to support directly reStart. And I think it's beautiful when people choose to support directly an organization like this, and like many others, it's better than tax money. Yes. And it's not even that much tax money, honestly. It's a small ask compared to Johnson County's $2 billion budget. But do we need it bigger? Do we need the budget bigger? I say no. Good Lord, it's out of control. And every little thing adds up. It makes housing more expensive. Most of my monthly payment is property taxes. I don't know about yours, but it's about a third property taxes, a little bit less than that, insurance, and then the remainder is the actual mortgage.
Well, the way I feel about it is that I support this. I really strongly support in doing that and using our tax dollars. I feel like that it's like a chain, that we're only as strong as our weakest link, and if we can keep and build up the people who are the most affected by homelessness, then we're really doing ourselves a disservice. So I truly feel like tax money is one of the best places it can go. But I appreciate what you're saying.
Thank you.